So I just got back from the biggest music gear conference in the world. What was there for working musicians like us? Let's talk about it. What's up everybody, my name is Adam, welcome to the channel. My goal is to help you make good money playing music. If that sounds like something you would be into, please subscribe to the channel and ring the bell so you don't miss anything. So last week I flew out to Anaheim for this year's NAMM conference. It's 4 days of gear, demos, and a lot of walking. And listen, I could get tons of clicks showing all the $5,000 guitars I played and all of the rock stars I ran into, but that wasn't why I went to NAMM in the first place. The reality is that I'm a working musician and most of you guys are too. So what does NAMM offer people like us? People who need tools to do their gigs at a price that they can afford on a working musician's budget. That's what I decided to focus on. And before I go any further, I just want to shout out our amazing Patreon community. Patreon is how I was able to afford to take this trip, and it wouldn't have happened at all without their support. Okay, let's talk through what I saw at NAMM 2024. Actually, let's start with what I didn't see. That would be Gibson and Fender. I think it's kind of strange that two of the biggest players in the industry would choose to sit this year out. Gibson did have a showcase of sorts off-site that leaked the new Dave Grohl signature Epiphone, but I think their absence had a really interesting effect on the convention. Primarily it meant that smaller companies had way more visibility, and the often lamented basement companies were on the main floor with everybody else. And I would say that foreign companies did a pretty impressive job of showing up and showing out. I'll get back to that in a minute. Now let's talk about what was trending this year. For guitar, I noticed a few things. One, headless guitars are in. There were a ton of companies offering headless guitars in the modern Strandberg-esque design. Most of them were also fairly affordable. I played a few of them and I really liked the Ibanez Ichikanito signature as well as the Moore GTS, surprisingly. Another thing I noticed is that most companies were building the exact same guitar. Basically, if you were looking for a modern spec 6-string, they all had the roasted maple necks, locking tuners, the neck joint truss rod adjustment. Basically, they all played like my Schecter Nick Johnston signature. Now, don't get me wrong, that's a phenomenal instrument, but at some point I just stopped picking stuff up because they all felt the same. In regards to live sound, it feels like a lot of companies are moving to the smaller format line array systems. It seemed like almost every speaker booth there had a version of that setup and it was cranked. An interesting exclusion for that though is Mackie. At their booth, the new battery powered showbox was the belle of the ball. Even in a crowded hall, it cut through and sounded really good. They had probably 4 or 5 of them on display and it was basically what everybody was talking about. As far as drums go, E-kits that look like regular drum kits seem to be the way the industry's moving. Nearly every drum company had a version of this form factor at their booth, and Gewa, who now owns DW and Gretsch, had really big crowds the entire weekend. Surprisingly though, only around the E-kits. Bass players, honestly, every booth I tried to go to had some dude slapping at like ear-piercing volumes, so I mostly skipped them. Speaking of slap bass, I probably saw Henrik Linder from Dirty Loops like 1,000 times over the course of my trip. The one category I was super disappointed by though was recording interfaces. Right now, I feel like the mid-tier interface market is really hollow and companies are really only focusing on the super low and the super high end. Granted, Universal Audio wasn't at the show, but I figured I'd run into something other than Apogee. So that sums up what I noticed as far as trends go. Okay, let's circle back to import companies. Donner, Moore, Nuax, and Xvive all had really big booths, and there were a lot of people checking out their products and their musician demos. The biggest ones being Ola Englund and Devin Townsend at the Xvive booth. I was among those folks, and I was really impressed with Nuax's new wireless system. The magnetized charging for the transmitter on the pedal itself is a really cool feature that I hope a lot of other companies start implementing. Nuax also had a small in-ear system that looked promising, if only for small gigs or band practice, but for $199 it seems like it could be a huge win. Along with that, there were a ton of smaller Asian manufacturers that were offering lookalikes for a ton of companies. No one seemed to be safe. Some of them looked okay, but a few that I picked up did not play very well and had poor QC. The same goes for live sound. I saw a bunch of wireless units that only operated on the top end of that 600 megahertz spectrum, which I'm pretty sure is about to get acquired by the FCC. It really doesn't matter how affordable something is if you have to get rid of it in a year or so. There was, however, this one Chinese company that had a huge amount of guitars that looked and played really well. This pink unicorn acoustic stood out, as well as this really cool geometric pattern telly. Both of them were well built and played great. And then I talked with one of their reps, and both of those guitars retailed for less than $200. I was absolutely gobsmacked that they were making some kind of profit because these were really remarkable instruments. The most expensive guitar they had was this 7-string headless that I think it topped out at maybe $1,000. My takeaway is that these import companies are really starting to prioritize quality and playability. And in the not so distant future, you're going to be able to find a sub $500 guitar that punches way above its price point. Speaking of sub $500 guitars, the best ones I played at the show were the revamped Aria Pro 2 line. Each of the model numbers is the area code of the city that they were inspired by, like 615 for the telly. They all played extremely well, well and retail for around $489 jumping off, which I was incredibly impressed by. For acoustics, I checked out Ibanez's new AAM line and I was blown away by the playability and price point. I would put these on the level of any Seagull out there. I also tried out the new Iceman models and they were great. That blue one is awesome. Moving to accessories, I had a really great conversation with the guys at the On-Stage booth and they had some really cool products like this new show caddy that holds stands, cables, and mics that I know a bunch of you guys would use. They also have this really neat guitar amp workstation that would be great for your home rig. Groove Gear had a big booth and their backpack line stood out for the sheer variety of sizes and features. I also found a small booth with a lot of cable management solutions as well as these super rugged phone and tablet stands, stuff that's gonna last a while. Another cool company I found is Elite Acoustics. They had these pedal-shaped mixers up to 6 channels. Awesome compact solution for solo players or small bands, and the pricing was great. Cool stuff aside, here are a few of the weird products I saw. In the Pro Audio section, they had these soundproof egg chairs and for some reason a slushy machine. Automaton came to their first NAMM show and the Inventor was there doing demos all weekend. Casio had the strap effect that was like a digital B-bender, but frankly, I couldn't focus on it at all because they misspelled guitar on all of their signage. I also ran into Rocket Music Gear who sell these little pedal button toppers so you can put a pedal on your pedal. They also have this Boss style adapter, which I think they made as a joke, but is actually kind of useful. Check out their straps too. I got this Back to the Future inspired one and they have a ton to choose from. And the most unique product I saw was this recording studio / loft bed system that offers incredible soundproofing. Normally it's walled up on all 4 sides, but they had a demo booth right next to it and the soundproofing was absolutely insane. And the rest of the cool stuff about NAMM was honestly the people. I got a chance to meet folks that I've been friends with on the internet in real life, talk with other creators in this space, and even a few folks who are fans of the channel who stopped me to say, hey, take a picture or ask for a sticker. It was a total blast. So there you have it. 2,200 miles, 228,894 steps, 8 protein bars, and one of whatever the hell this drink is. That was my experience at NAMM. For the regular musician, it may not be worth the cost to travel, but if you're within driving distance and you want to hang out with as many musicians as humanly possible, it might be worth a shot. Big thanks to Alex and the guys at Victory Amps for the passes, as well as Stringjoy and Origin Effects. That's going to do it for this week. Thanks again for tuning in. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel. We post new videos every single Friday. Also, if you dig what you just saw, consider joining the Patreon. This trip wouldn't have happened without them, and I'd like to do more of this kind of stuff, so check the link in the description and sign up today. Have an awesome week, and I'll see you next time.